This video gives you a peek behind the scenes so you can understand why you are getting ghosted and what you can do about it to help you move forward with your job applications. Basically, I understand the frustration. It's really tough to try and work through lots of applications, knowing that there's one that you really love that's just niggling in the back of your head that you wish you had some closure on. So the purpose of this video is to give you an overview of why this happens so you can understand a bit more about the mechanisms in the background and give you the tips and the processes that you need so you can follow up appropriately with the recruiters or with whoever who's involved in the process. I'm Tony McBride. I'm a career transition coach and I help mid to senior career professionals get the job offers that they want. So follow me for more content like this and like and subscribe, and make sure you add a comment if you've got any questions. First of all, I want to talk about the CV stage. So when you've submitted a job application and you're waiting on the outcome for that, essentially, the thing you've got to bear in mind is that recruiters are managing multiple roles. So they might have up to 10, sometimes beyond, roles per individual recruiter that they're managing end to end. And when I ran the stats last in May 2026, 244 applications per corporate role in the mid to senior space. So there's lots of applications to work through, and yes, they've got technology to help them with that, but it still takes a long time and it takes a bit of work in order to process all of that. Also, you've got to bear in mind that for those recruiters, there are certain roles that are prioritized. So they've got hiring managers breathing down their necks about this big priority, and perhaps the role you've applied for is lower on that rank. So it might just take them longer to get round to the process to shortlist your CV and ultimately come up with an outcome. Equally, sometimes roles are put up whenever they need to talent pool for individuals. And what I mean by that is they think they might need people, but they don't know yet. And this is big in consulting worlds where they're bidding on work, and if they win it, they're going to need to hire people. So sometimes roles are put out there to test the market, see what's out there, and then you might never hear from those type of things. So the best way to follow up on this one, honestly, I think you have to accept that if you haven't heard from a role in a couple of weeks, it is important to let it be. If you are really passionate about the role, there's no harm in doing it. But the reason I said don't follow up is because honestly, as a job seeker, there are much better, more effective things you could be doing with your time at this stage than following up on CV applications that you haven't heard back from yet. The next phase I want to look at is the CV screening stage. So this is where the recruiter has had a call with you. They've said they're going to pass you to the hiring manager and you're waiting for that outcome to see what's going to progress next. Hiring managers are usually quite time poor, and that's evidenced by the fact that they're trying to grow their team, or they're replacing someone who's left, meaning that they're quite starved of time. Now, obviously, you'd think that means we'll prioritize recruitment, get that over the line, but when they're juggling so many priorities, sometimes they just need a good recruiter to keep nudging them to keep that front of focus in place. So typically that is what's holding them back. They might be saying keep you warm because they don't have a need necessarily right now if it's a talent pooling situation, or they might just be holding back or taking longer than they anticipate to do so. An appropriate time to follow up once you've had that CV screening conversation with the recruitment teams is 2 weeks, or if they've given you a deadline, 1 week after that deadline. It's important to follow up when you've had that type of conversation. That's perfectly fine. The next one, and the biggest one, is when you've had that job interview and you're waiting for the outcome. This could be to progress to the next stage of an interview or whether or not you're getting an offer. The reason why this can happen in the background, hiring managers in interviews are quite wrongly optimistic with the timescales quite a lot of the time. So they will give you the timescale of when they will make the decision, but there might be governance loops about how those approvals need to happen. There might be scheduling of interviews that need to be coordinated for those next stages. There might be queries with the salary and issues like that the hiring managers might not have sight of. So more often than not, whenever they're telling you we'll make a decision next week, there's still bureaucracy and governance to happen beyond that decision. So they've kind of set the expectation wrong with you. There might be approval layers that are in place that take time with this process. So let's say, for example, a senior director has to approve the offer and that senior director is off on leave. That can take more time to process. Or if it's lower on the list of priorities, or there's more checks that need to be done about whether we could do anything internally about hiring this role before we make an offer for a permanent position. Yes, that diligence is done when a job is posted, but sometimes it gets done again to make sure that they're making the right hiring decision. So you've got to bear that in mind as well, that there's so many governance layers in place that it can take a long time. And then let's say that they do decide who they're going to offer the role to. They've normally made a first, second and third choice if they've had 3 people that have met the grade. And if that first person has the offer, they might take a weekend to think about it, take a few days, might decide it's not for them, or they might decide it is for them. That second and third answer won't know until that decision's made, because they don't want that person to feel like their second choice if they come and make an offer. So they were likely going to make that offer, decide, and then get in touch with second and third and let them know they have or haven't been successful based on the outcome of that. So often you are kept in that loop a little bit where you're relying on a lot of people to make that offer decision who are part of that process to get there. The other elements to talk about when it comes to the interview stage: talent pooling again. So they might decide to keep you warm or make an offer once they know they've won the work. Now, good recruiters will position that with you. Some might not though, or some who are time poor might not. So you've got to bear in mind that they might not get back in touch with you until they've won the work or they're certain that they need to deploy and hit the button on that offer right away. And finally, recruiters tend to offer on a Friday, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Candidates often like to take the weekend to think about it, so it's less working days for them to have to wait for you to get back to them. So if they make an offer on a Friday, think about it over the weekend. Monday they've got their offer, they can proceed with onboarding and getting that process going. Equally, as a recruiter, they're getting chased by people every day. It's a stressful job. Hiring managers are breathing down their neck for more updates. A good way to end your week is to make an offer and speak to people and, give them that joy as part of the process. So human behavior, they tend to do it on a Friday so they can end the week on a bit of a high. So my recommendation with all of that considered then is follow up after your interview 1 to 2 weeks after the deadline that they have given you. Okay, if they haven't given you any timescales, which you should be asking for in your interviews, then 1 to 2 weeks after the interview is fine. The best day of the week to follow up is a Tuesday. So Friday, as I said, is that sweet spot for doing offers. Monday, if there's something holding it back and then they've got a decision Monday morning. Tuesday then to make that offer and see what happens on that basis. So if you haven't had that offer, then chase on a Tuesday 1 to 2 weeks after. That's the most effective date. Any date's fine really, to be honest, but Tuesdays tend to work best. Now, underpinning all of that, one of the things that you need to do at your end is simply be patient, okay? I know that that's a challenge when you're waiting for a job offer. You might be waiting on this income source coming through. You might be worried that you have other jobs that you're going for, but you really want this particular one. Keep the process going as much as you can, because if you get another offer, you can use that as leverage and speak to the company that you really want and tell them that you're about to accept another offer, because I'm sure that if they're serious about you, they'll move on that. So try and be patient as much as you can. If you chase them every day, if you get frustrated with talent acquisition people, they'll often feed that back to hiring managers. Have you got any update? Because Tony's been chasing me 6 times this week. That's never a good look. So stick to those timelines that I mentioned. It's probably not worth it when it's CV stage. If you've had your CV screening interview, it's worth it for 1 or 2 weeks later. And if you've had your job interview, it's worth it for 1 or 2 weeks later. But try not to fall out of those boundaries, or else that could result in you coming across the wrong way. So be patient. I'll be right there to celebrate with you when that offer does come through. But in the meantime, good luck with your applications this week. And if you need any help and support, reach out. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, follow, do all the things on socials so you can learn more about me and how I can support you. Good luck.